The subway station buzzed softly with the hum of the magnetic rails. Neon lights flickered above, casting blue and purple shades across the cold floor. Rian stood near the platform's edge, holding his tool bag and rubbing his tired eyes. He had just finished a double shift repairing an eye screen in the city's outer sector. His boots were dusty and his uniform smelled faintly of oil and metal. Rian wasn't the type who liked crowds. He kept to himself mostly. Work, home, sleep, repeat. That was his routine. But tonight, something was different. Across the platform, near an old bench, a girl sat with her face buried in her hands. She didn't look like anyone else in the station. While others moved quickly or stared into their holoscreens, this girl was still silent, almost invisible in the crowd. She wore a long gray coat, slightly too big for her, and scuffed boots. Her black hair was pulled back in a loose braid, and though her face was hidden, Rian could see her shoulders shaking. She was crying. Rian hesitated. He wasn't good at talking to strangers, especially girls. He looked around, hoping someone else might help her. But people walked by without even noticing her. Or maybe they just didn't care. The train would arrive in 2 minutes. Something inside Rian pushed him forward. He walked slowly toward her, careful not to startle her. When he got close, he cleared his throat gently. "Hey," he said softly. "Are you okay?" The girl flinched. She didn't look up, but her hands dropped just enough to reveal part of her face, red eyes, pale skin, and a single silver earring shaped like a bird. I need to call someone," she whispered, "but my cum's broken." Without thinking much, Rian reached into his pocket and pulled out his personal phone, a simple model, nothing fancy. He unlocked it and handed it to her. "Here," he said. "You can use mine." She looked up at him, finally meeting his eyes. There was surprise in her face, maybe even fear, but also a small glimmer of relief. She nodded and took the phone with both hands. She typed quickly. Rian looked away, giving her privacy. He didn't try to listen. After about a minute, she ended the call. Her hands trembled as she handed the phone back. "Thank you," she said, voice barely above a whisper. Rian gave her a small nod. "It's all right. You sure you're okay?" She didn't answer. Her eyes darted toward the platform entrance, where 2 security bots had just entered. Their red eyes scanned the crowd slowly. The girl quickly pulled her hood over her head and stood up. "I have to go," she said. Before Rian could respond, she slipped away quiet and fast, disappearing into the shadows near the maintenance tunnel. The train arrived seconds later. Rian stood frozen, still holding his phone, staring at the spot where the girl had vanished. He didn't know her name. He didn't know who she had called, but something about the way she moved, the way she looked at those security bots. It didn't feel normal. He stepped onto the train, trying to shake the feeling. 20 minutes later, Rian reached his small apartment in Sector 12. He lived alone in a narrow room, stacked between other rooms like a honeycomb. The walls were thin, and the air always smelled of recycled water. He changed out of his work clothes, placed his tool bag by the door, and sat on the edge of his bed. His phone buzzed. He checked the screen. A new message had appeared, but there was no sender name. Just a string of strange symbols and a small lock icon. Rian frowned. The message opened on its own. It read, "I'm sorry. You don't know me, but you helped me. I need your help again. If they find me, they'll take me back. I can't let that happen. Please, keep this safe." Attached to the message was a file. He tapped it, and the screen flickered. A glowing blue chip design appeared on the display for a brief second, then vanished. Suddenly, the message deleted itself. Rian stared at his phone, confused and a little shaken. He had no idea what just happened. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know what the file meant, but deep down, he felt it. This wasn't just a girl with a broken cum dot. This was something bigger, something dangerous, something important. The next morning was strangely quiet. Rian sat at his small metal desk, sipping lukewarm tea. The sun barely reached his apartment window, filtered through layers of fog and tower lights. He kept checking his phone, but no new messages appeared. Last night's message had vanished like smoke, no trace left. No name, no file, nothing. He couldn't stop thinking about the girl. Who was she? Why had she looked so afraid of those security bots? And what was that glowing chip design that flashed for a second? His thoughts were interrupted by a sudden knock on the door. Rian froze. Hardly anyone ever visited him. He stood slowly and opened the door. Two men in black uniforms stood outside. Their coats had the silver crest of Velron Corp, the largest tech company in the city. Behind them stood a small surveillance drone, hovering silently. Rian? "The man on?" The left asked. His voice was calm but cold. "Yes?" Rian answered, trying to stay normal. "We're investigating a possible incident at the Grand Metro station last night," the second man said. "You were seen speaking to a young woman on platform." Rian felt his heart skip. He nodded slowly. "Yes," she looked upset. "I let her use my phone for a quick call. Did she say anything to you?" The first man asked. "No," Rian replied. "She just made a call and left." The two men looked at each other. Then one pulled out tablet and tapped on it. "If you receive any more messages from her, report it immediately. This is a sensitive family matter. We don't want innocent people involved." Rian gave a slow nod. "Understood." They stared at him a moment longer before turning away. The drone followed silently. Rian shut the door gently, then locked it. He leaned back against it, trying to calm his breathing. Family matter? That girl didn't look like someone from a rich family. She looked scared. She looked like someone running away from something, not someone protected. He sat down at his desk again. His fingers hovered over his phone. Should he delete everything? Should he pretend none of this ever happened? Before he could decide, the screen lit up again. Another message appeared. Just like before, no name, just symbols. "They're watching you now. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to pull you into this. If you want to help me, come to the old train yard near Sector 9, midnight, and bring the phone." Below the message, a small blinking map icon appeared. Then, just like last time, the message erased itself. Rian stared at the phone. His first instinct was to forget it all. He wasn't a fighter or a hero. He fixed broken screens and cleaned wiring panels. That's all, but something about her message stayed with him. She didn't ask for rescue. She didn't beg. She just asked for help, and she said sorry. He looked out his window. The lights of the city blinked like stars trapped in a cage. Midnight came quickly. Rian wore a dark hoodie and carried his phone in his coat pocket. The train yard was silent. Long-forgotten trains stood like sleeping giants, their paint faded, their wheels rusted. The area was off-grid, no cameras, no drones. He moved carefully, stepping over broken wires and loose gravel. A soft light flickered from one of the old train cars. He walked toward it. Inside, she was waiting. She stood near a broken console, holding a small flashlight. Her coat was still the same, but her face looked even more tired now. Her braid was loose, and her eyes had dark circles under them. "You came," she said softly. Rian nodded. "I got your message." She looked around nervously before speaking again. "My name is Tira," she said. "I'm sorry I dragged you into this. I had no one else to call." "Who are those people looking for you?" Rian asked. She hesitated. Then she took a deep breath. "My family owns Velron Corp," she said. "I'm their only child, but I ran away." Rian blinked. You're an heiress?" She shook her head. "Not anymore. They want to change me. They have this new tech, something that can control thoughts. They call it Neuralink. My father wants to test it on me first, so I'll never disobey." Rian felt cold. "That's not right." "I found something," she continued. A weakness in their system. The chip design you saw, it's a backdoor key. It can break their surveillance grid. I saved it, but they're hunting me now because of it. Why send it to me? He asked, because you helped me without asking for anything, she said. You gave me your phone, just because I looked sad. That meant something. Rian didn't know what to say. He had only done a small thing. But now it felt much bigger. What do you want me to do? He finally asked. She looked into his eyes. Help me get to the central core, she said. It's the only place I can upload the override. If I do, they won't be able to find people like me anymore. Rian looked at the silent, broken train. Cars around them. Then at her dot he was just a repairman, but maybe, just maybe, that was enough. The wind howled across the abandoned train yard as Rian and Tira sat inside the rusted train car. A single light from her small flashlight cast long shadows on the floor. Rian could hear the distant hum of the city, but out here, everything felt still, hidden. Tira hugged her knees close. Her coat wasn't warm enough for the cold night air, but she didn't complain. She had been living like this for days on the run, sleeping in old tunnels, moving from place to place. Rian could see the exhaustion in her eyes. She looked at him, her voice low. You really want to know the truth? Rian nodded. If I'm going to help you, I should understand everything. She took a breath. My full name is Tira Velrin. My family owns over 60% of the tech systems in this city. That includes defense drones, citywide surveillance, and the neural network that connects most AI systems. My father runs it all. Rian frowned. Then why would someone like you run away from all that? You had everything, didn't you? Tira shook her head. No, I had walls, rules, and silence. She looked down at her hands, remembering. Since I was small, everything in my life was planned. What I ate, what I studied, even when I was allowed to sleep. I wasn't raised to live. I was raised to obey. They said it was for the company's future. My future didn't belong to me. Rian listened quietly. Her voice was calm, but there was pain beneath it. A few weeks ago, she continued, my father showed me a new device. He called it the Neural Link Crown, a chip that connects the brain directly to the AI grid. He said once it's implanted, it would align mine with the company's mission. She looked directly at Rian now. It means total control. I'd still be alive, but I wouldn't be me. My thoughts, my dreams, even my emotions, they could be adjusted at will. Rian felt a chill run down his spine. I had no choice, she said. I escaped. I knew the system had weaknesses, so I took a part of it, a backdoor key hidden in the code. That's the chip I sent to your phone. It's not just data. It's the only thing that can break the lock on the system's core. Rian looked away for a moment. And now they're chasing you. Yes, she said. They've sent agents, bots, trackers. I've been hiding for days, but I can't run forever. That's why I need to reach the central core. Rian sat back against the metal wall. The core is in the heart of the city, right? It's protected by layers of security. No one gets in without high-level clearance. I have a plan, Tira said, but I can't do it alone. Rian laughed softly, not mocking her, just tired. I'm a repairman. I fix broken machines, not break into super-secure servers. Tira gave a small smile. Exactly, you fix things. You understand the city's tech better than most people. You know how it all connects. Rian thought about it. Maybe she was right. He did understand systems, wiring, energy flows, AI patterns. Still, this wasn't like fixing a screen. This was dangerous, but then he remembered the way she looked. When they first met, crying on a cold subway bench, alone, afraid, and he had helped her without even knowing her name. He looked at her now, and his voice was steady. All right, I'm in. Tira's eyes widened. Really? Yes, he said, but we'll need a proper plan and supplies. I know a place we can start." An hour later, they walked through the quiet streets of the lower district. Old buildings stood side by side, covered in vines and rust. Most people avoided this area. It was off the main grid, and the AI systems here hadn't worked in years. Rian led Tira to a small warehouse hidden behind a repair shop. He pulled out an old code card and scanned it against the lock. The door opened with a soft click. Inside was a small workshop filled with wires, screens, broken drones, and tools. Rian used it for side projects and upgrades no one knew about it except him. "This is where I come to think," he said. Ira looked around, amazed. "It's like your own secret base," Rian smiled. "Something like that." They sat down at the central table. Rian pulled out his backup screen and connected it to his phone. A glowing image of the chip appeared. Tira leaned in. That's the key. It looks like a security override. But it's also more than that." "What do you mean?" Rian asked. "If uploaded correctly," she said, "it won't just unlock the core. It'll release a signal that will shut down all tracking systems linked to Velrun. Every camera, every drone, every monitor connected to the grid. It'll all go dark for a few minutes. Long enough for you to disappear," Rian said. Tira nodded. "And maybe others too. People like me who want freedom." Rian stared at the glowing design. It was risky, illegal, dangerous, but it was also a chance to break. Something that was never fair to begin with. He looked at her, more certain now. "We'll need fake IDs, a pass through the middle city checkpoint, and a way to get into the core's outer ring," he said. Tira gave a soft smile. "I have a few tricks too." "You're not the only one who's good with systems," Rian laughed. "Then let's start planning." Outside, the city blinked and buzzed as usual. But deep below, in a quiet corner of forgotten streets, a plan had just begun, and two unlikely rebels were ready to challenge a system that had never been kind to people like them. The city lights flickered through the cracks in the underground tunnel. Pipes hissed with steam, and the sound of distant trains echoed like thunder in a cave. Rian moved carefully, keeping low while Tira followed close behind. 3 days had passed since they started planning. Every moment had been spent gathering tools, hiding from drones, and studying the old metro maps Rian had collected during his years as a repairman. He knew these tunnels better than most. The old systems had been abandoned, but some still worked. "If you knew the right codes, we'll take the maintenance tracks through Sector 11, Rian whispered, pointing to a dimly lit screen in his hand. "It connects to the core's lower level. No cameras, no patrols. It's risky, but it's our best shot." Tira nodded. "I trust you." That simple sentence made Rian pause for a second. Trust. No one had said that to him in a long time. He looked ahead. "Let's move. We can't stay in one place for long." They walked through broken service paths and rusted corridors. Old signs blinked with half-dead lights. Every so often, Rian stopped to check a panel, open a hatch, or reroute power lines. To keep motion sensors offline. Tira watched closely. "You're really good at this," Rian smiled. "When you work in the background, you learn how the city breathes. It has rhythms, like a machine with a heartbeat." Suddenly, a loud screech rang through the tunnel. Rian's screen lit up with a warning. "They found us," he shouted. Red lights flashed behind them as a surveillance drone flew into view. Its eye glowed bright red, scanning quickly. It sent out a loud alarm, metallic and sharp. "Run!" Rian grabbed Tira's hand and pulled her down the side tunnel. They raced through the narrow path, boots splashing in old water. The walls shook as more drones appeared, whirring loudly. One fired a stun pulse. It missed Rian's shoulder by inches, hitting the wall and sending sparks flying. They turned a corner and slid into a smaller tunnel, barely wide enough for both of them. "This way!" Rian shouted, breathless. They ducked into an old repair station long forgotten. Rian slammed the hatch shut behind them and jammed it with a broken steel rod. The buzzing of drones echoed for a while, then faded. Tira collapsed onto the floor, gasping. That was too close. Rian nodded also. Out of breath. They must have traced the chip signal. We need to move again, but smarter this time. He pulled out a small round device from his bag, a signal jammer he built from spare parts. He turned it on. A faint blue wave spread through the room. This will block scans for a little while, he said. Not forever, but enough to rest. Tira leaned against the wall. Her eyes were tired but determined. You saved me back there. Rian looked at her, serious. We save each other. There was silence for a moment. In the distance, the sound of the city continued, quiet now, but never truly asleep. After a short rest, they checked the map again. There's an old mag-lift platform 2 tunnels down, Rian said. If we can power it up, it'll take us straight to the core's base level. Tira stood. Then let's do it. The platform was deep underground. Dust covered the walls and old warning signs hung crooked. Rian approached the control panel. It was cracked but not dead. I can fix this, he said, kneeling down. Tira kept watch while he worked. She listened to the sounds around them, drips of water, soft wind, the distant echo of metal. Every small noise made her alert. She knew the Velrun agents weren't far behind. Rian connected a backup power cell, then typed in an old code he remembered from training years ago. The platform hummed to life. You did it, Tira whispered. Mag-lift slid into view, small, but working. They stepped inside, and the doors closed behind them. As the lift moved upward, Tira looked at Rian. Do you regret helping me? She asked softly. He didn't answer right away. Then he looked at her with calm eyes. No, he said. I was just a repairman before this. Now, I feel like I'm doing something that matters. Tira smiled. It was the first time in days that she truly smiled. But peace didn't last. As the lift neared the surface, it suddenly stopped with a loud jolt. The lights flickered. They're jamming us, Rian said. A voice echoed from a speaker above. Tira. Velrun, step out. Your escape ends here. Tira's face went pale. It was her father's voice. Rian looked at her. We're not stepping out. He opened the service hatch on the lift ceiling. Climb up. We'll escape through the top tunnel. They climbed onto the roof of the lift and into the maintenance shaft. The walls were tight, but Rian led the way, crawling fast. Below them, the doors opened and heavy boots echoed as agents entered the lift. Keep going, he whispered. They reached the upper exit and broke through a loose panel. Fresh air rushed in as they rolled onto a high walkway. They were now inside the outer shell of the core, a towering structure of steel, light, and data. Below them, thousands of circuits blinked like stars. The true heart of the city. Rian helped. Tira up. You okay? She nodded. Now we're close. So close. But they both knew the hardest part was yet to come. The core wasn't just a building. It was a fortress. And the system wasn't going to let go of her that easily. The walkway trembled under their feet as Rian and Tira stepped into the outer shell of the core. Around them, the air was thick with heat and humming energy. Walls of smooth metal rose in all directions, and glowing data lines moved like flowing rivers across them. The central core was alive, pulsing, breathing like a machine with a soul. This is it, Tira whispered, staring at the enormous structure ahead. It stood like a tower within a tower, stretching high above and deep below, covered in blinking nodes and surveillance threads. We need to reach the control room, she added. The override code must be uploaded there. It's the only terminal that connects to the entire surveillance grid. Rian looked up. How many security layers? At least 4, she said. Each one guarded by drones, sensors, and locked doors. Rian exhaled slowly. All right. Then let's start with the first one. They moved quietly across the walkway. Rian scanned the floor with his portable sensor checking for pressure plates. Tira followed close, holding the small chip tightly. In her hand, the chip glowed softly, reacting to the core's systems around them. At the first gate, they found a scanning wall. Rian crouched beside it and opened a side panel. "I can override this lock," he said, "but only for 60 seconds. "Then I'll be ready," Tira replied. Rian connected his handheld tool to the gate and typed fast. Lights flashed red, then orange, then green. The wall slid open with a soft hiss. "Go," he said. They slipped through just as the wall sealed. Shut again. Now inside the first ring of the core, they entered a narrow passage filled with rotating camera pods. The eyes blinked in slow motion, scanning every second. "Follow my steps," Rian whispered. "Watch the pattern." They moved like shadows, stepping only when the camera turned away. At one point, Tira slipped and her foot tapped a metal. "Peace." The nearest pod blinked faster. "Freeze," Rian whispered. They held their breath. The camera scanned their area, then returned to its normal path. The danger passed. After crossing the hall, they reached the second security layer. A force field blocking the elevator shaft. "This one needs a retinal scan," Rian said. "I don't have access." Tira stepped forward. "I do." She leaned close, and the scanner lit up. "Access recognized. Tira Volran." The field deactivated. Rian stared at her. "You knew it would accept you." "I hoped," she said. "Bit nervous. They may have removed me from the system, but they wouldn't erase my biodata. Not yet." They stepped into the elevator and ascended in silence. The higher they rose, the brighter the core became. Data beams rushed past them, like digital waterfalls. The entire city's control flowed through this tower. Rian looked out the window. "So this is what controls everything. All the drones, all the cameras, even people's records." Tira nodded. "Yes, it's also what my family uses to track everyone every day." The elevator stopped at the top floor. The control room. The doors opened to reveal a wide space with a glowing circular panel at the center. Around it, large screens displayed the city from above. Every street, every building, every person. Tira stepped forward. "This is where I change everything," she said, pulling out the chip, but before she could reach the panel, a voice echoed across the room. "Don't." They turned quickly. A tall man stood near the back wall. His coat was long and dark, his face calm but stern. It was Director Volran, Tira's father. He walked toward them slowly. "I knew you'd come here," he said to Tira. "You always wanted to run, but you always come back." Tira stepped back, but her voice was firm. "I came to end this, to stop the control. I won't let you use the neural link on me or anyone else." The director looked at her with cold eyes. "You don't understand what you're doing. The world needs order. People need direction. If we don't control them, chaos will destroy everything." Rian stepped forward. "People deserve to live free, even if it's messy. You can't play God with their minds." Director Velran looked at him sharply. "And you just a repairman? Do you think you're a hero?" "No," Rian said. "Just someone doing the right thing." The director raised his hand. Security bots rose from the floor, red lights blinking, weapons ready. Tira whispered, "Rian, I need time to upload the chip. Can you hold them off?" Rian looked at her, then back at the bots. His heart pounded, but he nodded. "I'll try." He grabbed a nearby panel cover, pulled it off, and threw it at one of the bots. It hit the sensor, making it spin. He jumped behind a pillar as the others opened fire. Sparks flew across the room. Tira ran to the terminal and placed the chip inside. The main slot, the screen glowed blue. Override code detected. Uploading. Rian moved fast, dodging behind equipment and throwing tools to distract the bots. One laser shot hit near his arm, burning his sleeve, but he kept moving. The room shook as the system reacted to the code. One bot charged toward Tira, but Rian tackled it from behind, yanking out a power cable. The bot sparked and fell. Upload. 60%, 70%, 80%. Tira watched the numbers rise. She breathed hard, sweat rolling down her face. The director shouted, "Stop this, Tira. You'll destroy our future." Tira looked at him one last time. "No," she said. "I'm giving the future back to the people." Upload complete. Signal active. A loud pulse echoed across the core. All the screens went dark. The bots froze. The red lights dimmed. Silence filled the room. Rian stood slowly, bruised but alive. Tira pulled the chip out and stepped away. The director stared in shock. "What have you done?" he whispered. "I set them free," she answered. Rian walked beside her. "Now let's disappear." Together, they turned away from the broken system and walked out into a world that no longer belonged to machines. The lights of the core continued to flicker as silence filled the room. Sparks rained from the ceiling panels, and the once glowing screens were now dark. Rian looked around slowly, still catching his breath. Everything had gone still. The bots that were chasing them had powered down. The red glow in their eyes had vanished. Even the drones in the hallway outside had crashed to the floor. The override had worked. Tira stood in front of the main console, her hands still shaking. Her heart beat fast, but she kept breathing deeply, trying to stay calm. "It's done," she whispered. "The grid is down. The surveillance system shut off." Rian walked to her side. His face had dust and a small scratch from earlier, but his eyes held relief. "At least for now," Tira nodded. "The signal I uploaded will block the network for 15 minutes. After that, it'll restart. But it won't be the same." Rian looked at her with confusion. "What do you mean?" "I didn't just shut it down," she said, reaching into her coat. "I reprogrammed the central command key with a delay. The system will reboot without its control chain, meaning no one can trace people by facial ID, voice match, or real-time movement." Rian's eyes widened. "So, it's blind?" "Yes," Tira said softly. "For the first time in years, the system won't be watching anyone. No one will know who's walking, who's talking, or who's thinking something different." They stood there in silence for a moment, letting it sink in. But that peace was broken by the sound of movement behind them. Director Velrin was still standing, his dark coat torn from the short struggle, his hands clenched, his expression full of disbelief. He looked at Tira like she was a stranger. "You betrayed everything we built," he said slowly. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Tira turned to face him. She didn't look afraid anymore. "Yes," she said. "I saved myself." The director took a step closer. "You had a future, power, safety. You gave it all up for freedom?" Tira looked down for a second, then back at him. "That wasn't my future. It was yours. You made choices for me. You tried to put a machine in my head so I'd never disagree. That's not safety. That's prison." Rian stood between them now, not aggressive, but firm. "She's leaving," Rian said, "and you're not stopping her." The director raised his hand, but nothing happened. His command ring didn't respond. The bots were still offline. He was alone. "You don't understand the world," the director said bitterly. "It's not built for freedom. Without control, it breaks apart." Rian shook his head. "Sometimes things need to break, so they can be rebuilt better." Tira stepped forward. "Goodbye, Father." And with that, she turned away from him. For the last time, Rian and Tira moved quickly through the upper levels of the core. With the system down, there were no cameras to track them, no alarms to alert security. They passed by locked doors, now powerless. Drones sat still in charging. Docks, their eyes dark. They climbed down a side staircase and exited into a supply hall that led to the backside of the tower. Rian activated a hidden door panel using an old service code. The wall slid open with a heavy sigh. They stepped outside into the cool night air. The city looked different. No lights blinked above the streets. No drones flew across the skies. For the first time in years, the sky was clear and quiet. People stood in the streets, looking up in confusion. Many were removing their tracking glasses, tapping their wrist screens that no longer responded. The city had gone quiet, and no one knew why. "They'll figure it out soon," Rian said. "They'll know someone hit the core," Tira nodded. "But they won't know who. I wiped our trail inside the system." She looked around. "We need to leave the city. Once the system resets, the new version won't track people, but Velrun Corp will still be hunting me, especially my father." "I know a path," Rian said. "An old maintenance tunnel that leads past the wall. I used it once for a private job." "Let's go," Tira said. They reached the tunnel after walking for over an hour through the older parts of the city. It was hidden behind an old trash unit in a dead zone, an area where most people never visited. Inside, the air was damp and heavy, but Rian's flashlight kept the path clear. Tira followed him closely, her coat dirty but her spirit stronger than ever. As they walked, she spoke quietly. "Do you think they'll come after you?" Rian shrugged. "Maybe, but I was nobody before. Just a repair guy. They don't even know my last name." She smiled at that. "Maybe that's a good thing." He smiled back. "What about you? You were the heiress to a tech empire. Now, you're just Tira." "Just Tira is who I want to be," she said. They reached the end of the tunnel. A rusted door stood before them. Rian pushed it open, and fresh air filled the space. Beyond the door, open land stretched into the night grass. Trees, and the distant lights of small homes outside the city zone. They had made it. Tira stepped outside first, breathing deeply. "This is the first time I've ever left the city limits," she said. "How does it feel?" Rian asked. She turned toward him with a small smile. "Like I'm finally awake." They walked side by side under the stars. For now, they were free. And though the world beyond was unknown, it was real. It was theirs. Behind them, the city slowly blinked back to life, but it wasn't the same city anymore. It was one where people could walk without being watched. And it all started with one simple act of kindness. The night air was cool and fresh as Rian and Tira stood at the edge of the city, looking out over the dark fields stretching toward the horizon. Stars twinkled above, clearer than either had ever seen them inside the city's glowing cage. For a long moment, neither spoke. "This place is quiet," Rian said finally. "Too quiet." Tira smiled softly. "It's real. No blinking lights, no drones, just the stars." Rian looked at her. "What happens now?" "You don't have your family, and I don't have a plan." Tira nodded. "We start simple. We find others like me. Others who want freedom. We build something new, something better." Rian laughed lightly. "From a repairman to a rebel leader, huh?" She grinned. "You helped me believe it's possible, and maybe that's enough to start." They turned and walked down a small dirt path leading away from the city. The distant glow faded behind them like a fading dream. Days passed and the city slowly adjusted to its new silence. Without its all-seeing eyes, people moved freer, spoke louder, and stopped hiding behind digital masks. Rumors spread of the mysterious blackout and the unknown hero who had brought it. Inside the city, Velrun Corp was in chaos. The board meetings were filled with angry voices and desperate plans. Director Velrun had vanished. Some said he had fled. Others whispered of a deeper conspiracy. But outside, far from the city's grasp, Rian and Tira traveled through small villages and forests. They met people who had lost trust in machines and leaders. People who wanted to live without fear. Tira shared her story quietly, never revealing her full identity. She spoke of control, fear, and hope. Rian fixed broken devices and helped locals with simple repairs. Slowly, they built a small group of friends, people who believed in freedom and choice. One evening, sitting around a campfire, Tira looked at Rian. "Do you ever regret it?" He shook his head. "No, I only wish I had done this sooner." She smiled, eyes reflecting the flames. "Sometimes the smallest things change everything, like lending a phone." Rian chuckled. Who knew a simple act could start a revolution? They both laughed softly, comfortable in the quiet night. Months later, word of their cause spread beyond the city walls. The broken system inspired others to question the power of machines over people. Small groups formed, working together to protect privacy, freedom, and human choice. Tira and Rian became symbols of hope, a reminder that even in a world ruled by technology and control, a single human act could change the future. One day, while walking through a market in a small town, Tira stopped and looked at a child playing with a toy drone. The child smiled up at her, innocent and free. She whispered, "This is why we fight." Rian put a hand on her shoulder. "For them. For all of us." They looked up at the sky, the sun rising on a new day. Though the past was behind them, and the city's shadow still lingered, they knew one truth. Freedom was not given, it was taken. It was earned.